Episode 18, Waking Up Different When Sleep Feeds the Next Day. Well, I opened my eyes before the alarm. Technically, I had slept 7.5 hours. That should have been enough. But still, something felt off. My body was heavy, my thoughts were foggy, my breath was shallow. I wasn't panicked or rushing. I wasn't even late, but I wasn't ready. Not for the day, not for movement, not for light. I sat on the edge of the bed, wondering why. I had done everything right the night before. Lights dimmed, screens off, herbal tea, wind down hour complete, and I had fallen asleep easily. But the rest I got didn't seem to reach me. It was like my body had done its part, but the morning had missed the handoff. The baton was dropped between the night and the day, and I started realizing how I woke up mattered just as much as when. Most of us don't think about that. We think good sleep is the goal. But the truth is, good sleep is a beginning. It's a foundation. And what we do with it in the first hour of the day either honors it or erodes it. I had been sleeping better, but I hadn't been waking well. That morning, instead of pushing myself into motion, I stayed still. I paid attention, and I asked, what if I let the morning land before I tried to launch? The first thing I changed wasn't my alarm. It was what came after it. I used to reach for my phone immediately, check texts, scan the news, scroll social media. But what I didn't realize was that every one of those actions sent a message to my nervous system. Emergency mode engaged. Before I even stood up, I was already in reaction, already absorbing stress, already skipping the handoff. So I tried something different. I gave myself 5 minutes. No phone, no talking, no mental to-do lists, just breath. One hand on my chest, one on my belly. Just to remind my body, we're safe, we're not behind, we're waking up on purpose. Then came light, but not overhead light. I opened a curtain. Let natural light spill in slowly. Sunlight tells your brain that melatonin can pause now, that it's time to shift, that there's a new rhythm to enter. I stood there for a few minutes, eyes soft, shoulders heavy. No need to rush into clothes or coffee, just light, just breath, just arrival. I also started hydrating before anything else. Not with caffeine, with water, a pinch of sea salt, a squeeze of lemon, to tell my cells, we're beginning again. You made it through the night. You kept me alive. Let's start this with clarity, not chaos. Sometimes I stretched. Sometimes I walked barefoot on the rug for a few seconds, just to feel grounded. Sometimes I wrote one line in a notebook. Still tired, but at least I'm here. The point wasn't performance, it was connection. With my own rhythm. With the moment. With what the day was gently offering, instead of what I used to snatch from it in panic. And gradually, I noticed something shift. I wasn't chasing energy all day. I was carrying it. I wasn't gulping coffee just to feel normal. I wasn't collapsing at 3 p.m. from cortisol crashes. Because the rest I had gotten the night before didn't vanish. It stuck. It stayed. It carried me. The morning became more than just the start of the day. It became the final chapter of the night. And that shift changed everything. I stopped treating waking up like a race. I stopped punishing my body for still feeling heavy. I stopped expecting alertness to show up on command. Instead, I allowed arrival. Slow, gentle, sometimes groggy, but intentional. The truth is, waking up well isn't about being productive. It's about being present. It's not about jumping into routines. It's about feeling the ground under your feet. Letting your nervous system know the world is here, but so are you. And you don't have to earn your place in it by hurrying. So if you're waking up tired, even after a full night of sleep, don't just look at your bedtime. Look at your morning time. What are you handing yourself in those first few minutes? Panic or presence? Pressure or permission? You deserve a day that begins with care, not chaos. Because when you carry rest into the light carries you back. In the next episode, we'll explore something deeply personal. It's about the link between our cravings and our emotions, especially at night. When you think you're hungry, but what you're really craving is connection. It's called Episode 19, I wasn't hungry, I was just lonely. How emotions shape our sleep cravings. And it just might shift how you see those midnight snack urges for good. But for now, take this with you. Good sleep doesn't end with the closing of your eyes. It ends with how you open them. Softly, slowly, on purpose. Episode 19, I wasn't hungry, I was just lonely. How emotions shape our sleep cravings. It was 11:04 p.m. I was standing in front of the fridge, not really looking for anything specific. The light buzzed faintly, casting a cold glow on the shelves. Leftover pasta, a jar of almond butter, a few slices of cheese. My hand hovered, but I wasn't hungry. Not really. I had eaten dinner, I had brushed my teeth. I wasn't craving a snack, I was craving something else. Connection. Comfort. A sense that I wasn't ending this day alone. It had been one of those quiet evenings. Not sad, just still. No texts, no phone calls, no plans. Just the hum of the dishwasher and the sound of my own thoughts. And as the night grew darker, something inside me started reaching. Not for food, but for feeling. For something warm, something to hold. Something that could tell my body, you're okay, even now. Even in this. But that's the thing about emotional hunger. It wears a disguise. It looks like a snack. It sounds like maybe just a bite. But what it really is need. For care. For presence. For company. And I used to ignore that, or worse, shame myself for it. I'd tell myself, you're just being weak. You should have more discipline. Don't eat when you're not hungry. But all that did was push the feeling deeper. Make it quieter, more desperate. Until the snack wasn't a choice. It was a coping mechanism. A substitute for something I hadn't even named. Most of us were never taught to tell the difference. Hunger is hunger, right? A growl in your belly, a craving in your mouth, a thought that floats in saying, maybe I'll just grab a little something. But over time, I learned that not all hunger is physical. Some hunger comes from deeper places, from silence that lasted too long, from touch that never came, from words we needed but didn't hear. And late at night, when the world gets quiet, those hungers get louder. So I began asking questions. When I felt the urge to snack after dinner, even if I had eaten plenty, I didn't say no. I said pause. I closed the fridge, sat on the floor, hand on heart, and I asked, what are you really needing right now? Sometimes the answer surprised me. Sometimes it was something I hadn't even noticed during the day. I'm overwhelmed. I feel invisible. I miss someone. I need to cry. I just want to feel like I matter. No salad could fix that. No chocolate could fully fill that. And yet food was the most accessible, socially accepted way to say, I'm hurting and I don't know what else to do. But here's the shift. Emotional hunger doesn't need to be shut down. It needs to be seen. Not judged, not labeled as bad habits, just seen for what it is. A call for comfort. A desire for safety. A moment of unmet need. And when we meet it gently, without shame, it softens. Not every craving disappears, but the panic around it does. We move from compulsion to choice, from autopilot to awareness. And that awareness gives us options. We can still eat if we want to, but not because we're lost in the loop, because we're choosing nourishment in all its forms. So what do we do when we're not hungry for food, but hungry for something else? I started building a little toolbox, not full of hacks or distractions, but of substitutes. Real ones. Things that gave me the emotional fuel I was missing. Sometimes I would text someone, not with some deep confessional, just a simple, hey, thinking of you. Sometimes they wrote back, sometimes they didn't. But even the act of reaching out made me feel more tethered to the world. Other times I wrapped myself in a blanket and turned on a song that made me feel something. Not just background music, but music that held me. That let me feel the ache without drowning in it. That made me cry if I needed to, and feel better afterward. Some nights I pulled out a notebook, not to journal or be productive, but to dump. To let whatever was swirling in my chest land somewhere. Just one page. No grammar check. Just truth. And then there were nights when I did eat. But I ate with awareness. I sat down. I used a bowl. I didn't stand at the fridge. I didn't eat out of the package. I gave that snack a seat at the table of my emotions. And in doing so, I gave myself permission to be cared for, even if what I was craving wasn't food. I also started practicing a kind of emotional check-in before bed. I'd ask what didn't get expressed today, what didn't get held. Sometimes naming it was enough. Loneliness, boredom, that weird sense of I don't know what I'm doing with my life. You'd be surprised how healing it is just to name it. Not fix it, not hide from it, just name it. And then let yourself rest anyway. Because here's the truth. Food can be comfort, but it doesn't have to be the only comfort. And when you give yourself more ways to be held, more ways to feel seen, that fridge becomes a place of choice, not of desperation. That night, when I stood in front of the fridge and realized I wasn't really hungry, I didn't walk away in shame. I didn't close the door with guilt. I stood there and said quietly to myself, "You're just feeling a little human tonight." And that was enough, because sometimes the craving isn't about the cookie. It's about connection. It's about soothing. It's about the ache of being alone with your thoughts in a world that's constantly asking you to be strong, to be busy, to be fine. And when you recognize that, really recognize it, the snack becomes optional, not forbidden, not necessary. Just one of many ways you could care for yourself. But not the only one. And if you do eat, that's okay too. You don't have to earn your right to rest by eating perfectly. You don't have to reject your cravings to prove your discipline. You are not weak for wanting comfort. You are wired for it. We all are. That's what makes us human. So tonight, if you find yourself standing in front of the fridge with a quiet ache in your chest, I hope you remember this. You're not broken. You're not undisciplined. You're just trying to meet a need. And maybe, just maybe, that need isn't in your stomach. It's in your heart. And that need deserves kindness, not control. In the next episode, we'll talk about something sneakier, something that might be messing with your sleep without you even knowing. It's called Episode 20, Hidden Caffeine, Why Your Sleep is Suffering, Even When You Swear You Had None. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this one, because it's not always the cup of coffee keeping you up. Sometimes, it's the quiet stuff you didn't know you were sipping. But for tonight, here's your permission slip. To feel what you feel, to comfort yourself in ways that nourish you, and to remember that rest is your right, even when your heart is hungry. Episode 20, Hidden Caffeine, Why Your Sleep is Suffering, Even When You Swear You Had None. I thought I had cracked the code. No coffee after 10 a.m., herbal tea only at night. I said no to the espresso martini at dinner. I even switched from dark chocolate to fruit for dessert. I was doing everything right, or so I thought. But still, sleep didn't come easy. I'd lie there, exhausted but wired, wondering why my mind felt like it was still scrolling, even though my phone was off. Why my body was buzzing, even when I hadn't touched caffeine all day. That was the night I Googled something I hadn't considered, foods with hidden caffeine. And the results surprised me. Because caffeine isn't just in coffee. It's not just in energy drinks or sodas. It hides in green tea that says calming on the label, in decaf coffee that still carries a small but real jolt, in that square of dark chocolate you thought was harmless, in pain relievers, in pre-workout powders, in weight loss teas, even in your favorite relaxing matcha latte, which by the way still contains enough caffeine to delay your melatonin by hours. And the real kicker? Some of us are just more sensitive to it. Our bodies don't metabolize caffeine the same way. What barely touches one person can keep another awake all night. I used to think I was just an anxious sleeper. But once I started tracking where caffeine was still sneaking in, everything changed. The first hidden culprit? Decaf coffee. Yep, decaf. I used to think that meant zero caffeine. But turns out, decaf isn't the same as no caf. An average cup of decaf can still contain anywhere from 2 to 15 milligrams of caffeine. For some people, that's no big deal. For me, that's enough to delay melatonin production for hours. And the wild part? Some restaurant decafs are even worse because their brewing process isn't tightly regulated. I remember sipping a cozy after-dinner decaf latte on a rainy night, feeling proud of myself for being responsible, and then staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering what went wrong. Now I know. Second sneaky source, green tea. People love to talk about its antioxidants, its calming L-theanine, but they forget it's still got caffeine, sometimes 30 milligrams or more per cup, and when it's cold brewed or concentrated in matcha, even higher. I had a friend who drank sleepy green tea every night before bed, thinking it helped her wind down. Turns out her wind down ritual was wired. Third on the list, dark chocolate. Now don't get me wrong, I love a good square of 70% cocoa, but that beautiful little piece of bitterness? It's got a kick. 1 ounce of dark chocolate can have up to 25 milligrams of caffeine. And if you snack on a few pieces while watching a show before bed, you've basically had a small espresso. Fourth, energy bars and protein drinks. Yep, some of them sneak in green tea extract or guarana for an energy boost. Others just straight up add caffeine and call it performance fuel. But when you're reaching for a healthy snack post-dinner, thinking it's good for muscle repair, you might also be feeding your insomnia. Fifth, painkillers. This one shocked me. A lot of over-the-counter medications for headaches, colds, and even menstrual cramps contain caffeine, because caffeine can boost the effectiveness of pain relief. But if you're taking one of these before bed, thinking it'll help you sleep through the pain, you might be swapping one problem for another. Sixth, pre-workout supplements. I once took half a scoop of a mild pre-workout powder for a late afternoon gym session. Harmless, I thought. I felt amazing in the workout, focused, driven, alive. Then I laid in bed that night, staring at the ceiling like I was in a laser tag arena. I checked the label the next day, 200 milligrams of caffeine in half a scoop. No wonder my brain felt like it was doing jumping jacks at midnight. And finally, number 7, kombucha. Yep, that healthy, bubbly, probiotic drink. While some brands brew low-caffeine kombucha, others use green or black tea bases that aren't fully fermented out. A bottle can have anywhere from 10 to 40 milligrams of caffeine. That calm you feel? It might just be a gentle buzz. Once I realized all the places caffeine was hiding, I didn't quit everything cold turkey. That's not sustainable. What I did instead was become strategic. I started reading labels, not obsessively, but curiously. I asked myself one simple question before consuming anything after 2 p.m. Will this make my body feel more rested or more revved? That alone changed so many of my habits. I swapped my green tea wind-down ritual for chamomile with a pinch of cinnamon. I switched my healthy protein bar for a banana with a spoonful of almond butter. I stopped trusting the word decaf unless I brewed it myself, and instead started exploring herbal coffees. Chicory, roasted dandelion, carob blends. Warm, earthy, satisfying, but zero buzz. And when I did crave dark chocolate late at night, which, let's be real, still happens, I chose lower cocoa percentages, or had it earlier in the day, pairing it with lunch instead of making it a midnight moment. Because context matters, so does timing. I even found non-caffeinated pain relief options for those occasional nights when a headache or sore muscles showed up. Magnesium, warm Epsom salt baths, gentle stretching. They worked better for me long-term than popping something that quietly wired me up. But more than the swaps, it was the awareness that made the biggest difference. Just knowing where caffeine might be hiding gave me back control. I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't blaming stress or screens when my heart was racing at bedtime. I could actually trace it back, and that gave me power, not restriction. Freedom. The freedom to say no to what doesn't serve my rest. The freedom to enjoy energy in the morning when I want it, and calm in the evening because I've made room for it. The freedom to stop wondering why I feel off and start feeling in rhythm with my body again. I used to think better sleep required a full lifestyle overhaul, that I had to meditate perfectly, eat clean, go to bed at the exact right time, and eliminate every possible obstacle, including caffeine. But what I've learned is this: you don't have to be perfect. You just have to notice. Because once you notice where caffeine is slipping in, you can make small choices that add up. You can have your favorite drinks just earlier. You can eat chocolate just with more intention. You can say yes to comfort without accidentally saying yes to stimulation. And that shift, that awareness, it can be the difference between lying awake, wondering why, and slipping into sleep knowing you've cleared the path. Sleep isn't asking you to be a monk. It's asking you to be gentle, to be wise, to treat your body like it wants to rest, not like it's the enemy of rest. And once you start trusting that, your body starts trusting you back. In the next episode, we'll go in a different direction, but one that might explain why even with good food and good habits, sleep still feels elusive. It's called Episode 21, The Ritual That Makes Sleep Land. We'll talk about why you can't force sleep and how to create a nightly rhythm so calming, so steady, that sleep doesn't have to be chased. It comes to you. But for now, here's your reminder. Caffeine is not the enemy. It's just a stimulant. And you're in charge of how and when it shows up in your life. You don't have to quit coffee. You just have to quit accidentally inviting it into your nights. Sleep well tonight. You've earned it. With every quiet, thoughtful choice that got you here. Episode 21, The Ritual That Makes Sleep Land. I was lying there still, lights off, phone away, room quiet, but my mind, loud, so loud. Thoughts jumping from tomorrow's tasks to yesterday's conversations to some weird memory from third grade. My body was tired, my eyelids heavy, but sleep, nowhere to be found. The more I wanted it, the further it drifted, like trying to catch a feather with clenched fists. That's when I realized, sleep doesn't come when it's chased. It comes when it's welcomed. I used to think I needed to knock myself out to sleep, exhaust myself, distract myself, force my mind to shut down. But sleep doesn't respond to force, it responds to rhythm, to trust, to the kind of environment that says, you're safe now, you can let go. And that's where ritual comes in, not routine, not a checklist, not another thing to get right. But ritual, something you do with intention, something that tells your brain, we're winding down now, we're landing the plane, we're not in performance mode anymore, we're transitioning from doing to being, from outside to inside, from alert to surrender. I tried a lot of things, some of them helped, some just stressed me out more. I downloaded 5 different sleep apps. Some had ocean waves, some had a guy with a British accent telling me to picture clouds. Others just made me feel like I had homework to do before bed. Then there were the checklists. No screens after 9. Warm bath at 9:15. Herbal tea at 9:30. Journaling at 9:45. Meditation at 10. Lights out at 10:30. You know what happened? I started getting anxious about the ritual itself. If I missed a step, I felt like I had already failed the night. And ironically, that pressure kept me awake longer. What finally helped wasn't some perfect sequence, it was rhythm. Gentle rhythm. A few simple things I could do every night, in any mood, no matter where I was. Things that told my body, it's safe now. You don't need to perform. You don't need to think. You just need to return. One of the first shifts was lighting. I used to live under harsh overhead lights until the minute I turned them off. Then I switched to lamps, warm tones, even candlelight. It wasn't about being aesthetic. It was about signaling to my brain, the sun has set, we're entering soft mode. Then came sound, not silence. That made my mind louder. But not stimulation either. I found a few tracks that soothed me. Low piano, rain on leaves, sometimes just the soft hum of white noise. No words, no lyrics, just textures. Sounds that said you're held. And then, Movement. Not a workout, just a release. 10 minutes of stretching, a few slow breaths, maybe rolling my neck, maybe lying on the floor with my legs up the wall. Nothing fancy, nothing tracked, just my body saying, "Thank you, you did enough today." Sometimes I journaled, not always, but when I did, it wasn't a place for goals or self-improvement. It was where I put down the thoughts I didn't want to take to bed. I'd write them like I was unloading bags before a long flight. Not fixing anything, just placing them down. What surprised me most was how little I actually needed to do. The power wasn't in the number of steps, it was in the consistency, the rhythm, the signal. After a while, even if I didn't stretch, even if I skipped journaling, just lighting the candle and putting on the same soft music was enough. My body began to understand. My nervous system began to say, "Oh, we're doing this now. We're safe now, it's time to let go." Sleep started to arrive not like a crash, but like a gentle guest. Not something I had to seduce or trap, but someone I had made space for. A familiar presence I stopped chasing and started welcoming. And here's what I want to leave you with. Your ritual doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be yours. Something that feels good, something that's repeatable, something that tells your body every single night, "We're not in the world now. We're in the winding down." You don't have to hold it all. You can put it down. And even if your sleep isn't perfect, if it comes in waves or takes longer some nights, that's okay. The ritual still matters. It tells your body and your spirit that rest is coming, that you're worth preparing for, that you are worthy of being gently led into the quiet. In the next episode, we're going to flip things upside down. Because while bedtime matters, what you eat when you wake up might be just as important. We'll dive into episode 22, the breakfast that keeps you calm all day, and why your first meal might be secretly setting the tone for either stress or serenity long before night falls. But for tonight, here's your invitation. Find your rhythm. Light the candle, exhale slowly, make room, and then let sleep land.